Today, I want to talk about intermittent fasting and two strategies you can employ to achieve intermittent fasting. OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, or 2MAD, which is 2 meals a day. So, first of all, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is when you basically eat in a shortened window in a day, and then you have a longer period of the day that you're fasting. So, there are 16:8 and 18:6 are fairly common intermittent fastings. So, basically, you would fast for 16 hours, you would eat within an 8-hour window in the 18:6, you would fast for 18 hours, eat within a 6-hour window. Those are both 2MAD strategies, and there's also an OMAD strategy where basically you fast for 24 hours and eat once a day. So now the question becomes, what is better for you? Is OMAD better or 2MAD? All right. So looking at that, again, OMAD is eating 1 meal a day. So typically, let's say you eat, we'll just say 4 p.m., okay? And you eat all the food that you're going to eat for that day. And then you don't eat again for essentially another 24 hours around 4 p.m. the next day. Um, and sometimes, it might only be like 22 hours. Maybe you'll get hungry like around 2 p.m. But then you'll eat your one large meal again, and you won't eat again until the next day. So that is OMAD, 1 meal a day. Going back to 2MAD, it's typically 2 meals a day, though it could be more, could be three if you really did smaller meals, I guess. And it's either within like a 6 hour or an 8 hour window. And then the rest of the day, you're fasting. So it's considered an intermittent fast. And then you eat again the next day around the same times. So, first of all, when you're looking at these and you're thinking, okay, which one is best for me? If you're first coming to a low carb or carnivore diet, um, I would suggest starting out slowly. Don't just jump into OMAD because you're probably not used to eating that way. You're probably used to eating 2, 3, even 4 meals a day. So when you first start out, first of all, you want to transition into whatever diet you're doing. So if you've been doing like the standard American diet that has a lot of carbs, is a very high carb diet, you want to slowly decrease those carbs. You want to start out with removing sugar and seed oils, and slowly decrease the carbs. So if you're going to low carb, you want to slowly over a few weeks get it down to the number of carbs that you want to eat. Um, and obviously, you want to try and stay as much as possible away from processed foods. So most of your carbs are going to be like certain vegetables or fruits. And if you're doing carnivore, you're going to completely remove all carbs out of the diet. But again, it's over several weeks that you're going to do that. So you're going to try and get rid of the sugars and the seed oils first. Try and go and get rid of as much of the processed food as possible. And over several weeks, you'll go down to the point of where you won't be eating any more carbs at all. In that time period, you're best to start out with doing 2 to 3 meals a day if that's what you've been doing, and get used to the eating. You're going to have certain cravings and so forth, as you're getting rid of the sugar in your diet and so forth, right? Um, Even as you've gotten finally to what is your end game of how you're eating, whether it's low carb or it's carnivore with no carbs at all, you're still best bet is to start out with doing 2 or 3 meals a day and make sure that you're getting all the nutrients you can, all the nutrients you should or that you need, um, and make sure that your body is functioning as it should. If you have a lot of weight to lose, you're going to be noticing a lot of weight loss coming on. Um, some of that is water weight, and then some of it is just you're starting to lose the body fat. Um, And then as you go and maybe you get a few months in and you feel more comfortable, you have less cravings and so forth, then if you want to consider OMAD, the 1 meal a day, then that's probably about the right time to start thinking about introducing that. But the question is, which one is best for you, right? It's one meal a day or 2 or 3 meals a day better. And realistically, I think once you get down to it after, the initial month or two, um, you probably in most cases are going to be one meal a day or 2 meals a day. So we won't even talk about three meals a day anymore at that point. And the reason being that it's going to be easier to do intermittent fasting with one meal a day or 2 meals a day. Um, when you look at intermittent fasting, if you're used to eating 3, 4, or more times a day, it probably sounds a bit daunting to you, but it's really not that bad. You can eat twice a day and still fast for 18 hours. Let's say you eat at noon and then you eat again at 6 p.m. That's a 6 hour window. And then you have 18 hours of fasting before you go and eat your first meal of the next day. Um, so it's actually pretty simple once you get into doing low carb or carnivore to do 2MAD. Um, Now, the question again, OMAD or 2MAD better? And it really depends on you. It depends on your body and it depends on where you're at in your journey. I can tell you, I have done both throughout the last 14 months. There have been times that I've been 2MAD, 2 meals a day, and there were time periods that I've been OMAD. I did OMAD for about a month and a half to a 2 month period in the spring, and I did really well with it. Um, but I kind of got back to the point of where I wanted to go and introduce certain foods again that I hadn't been eating, and they tend to work better with 2MAD. That is like things like chicken, chicken wings, seafood, and stuff like that, where it's a lot harder to eat one big meal and feel full the entire 24 hours. So I kind of got back to doing 2MAD, and I've been doing 2MAD now for probably 3 to 4 months again. All of that said, whether you're doing OMAD or 2MAD, it is important that you're getting enough fat, not too much, but enough fat in your diet. Uh, Again, if you're eating, the good fatty meat, a lot of times we're talking about beef as being the better fatty meat to get. You can get ground beef, you can get chuck roast, you can get ribeye, New York strip, whatever it is. Ribeyes tend to have more fat content to them. So does chuck roast. If you're going with ground beef or the pre-made burger patties, definitely try and find like 70/30 or 75/25 as your protein fat content ratio, and that'll help to get the amount of fat that you need. Eggs are always a good thing to get a good source of saturated fat as well. And the key with the fat is knowing exactly how much you need, right? The best and easiest way to know on your fat intake is usually about a month or so in when you first go carnivore, those first few weeks, you're transitioning and it's still kind of hard to know. You might have some loose stool issues just because you're moving over to carnivore or low carb, whatever it is. But once you're about a month in, that's when you can really get a good indicator of how much fat you actually need in your diet, how much fat consumption. Um, if your stools are pretty loose and you're going more frequently, then you're probably getting more fat than you actually need. And everybody is different. So just because one person needs a certain amount of fat doesn't mean that that's how much fat you need. And vice versa, you might need more fat than somebody else. So if you're going with a lot of loose stools quite often, just go ahead and lower the fat content, and particularly rendered fat. For some people, they have a harder time with rendered fat. So that is your melted butter and stuff like that, right? Your melted fat. So try getting it more in a solid form and see if that helps makes a difference. If it's still really loose, then you probably need to lower the content of fat that you're eating. Now, vice versa. if you're having problems going to the bathroom, you're having constipation, um, then you might need to add a little more fat to your diet. Another thing, if you are seeming a little bit tired and lethargic on the carnivore diet or the low carb diet, it could be that you're not getting enough fat. Now, it could also be an issue with your electrolytes, so you need to watch that as well. But it could very well be that you just need to add a little more fat content into your diet. Pay attention to what you're eating. If you're eating a lot more leaner meats, then you might need to add a little bit of fat in there. Maybe add some bacon grease when you're cooking, some bacon fat, or add some butter, a little extra butter. If you're, let's say you have leaner types of steaks that you've been eating, just melt a little bit of butter on top. It'll be like a nice butter brush, and that'll help give you a little bit more fat content into your food. So let me know in the comments if you're doing OMAD or 2MAD and how it is going for you. And also let me know if you have any other tips for knowing the fat content in your diet and making sure that you have the right amount of fat. Um, and if you're doing any type of longer fast rather than intermittent fasting, but maybe you're doing 36-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour fasts, let me know in the comments how that is going as well. And if you like this content, please go ahead and hit the like button and share it on social media with your friends and family.